Flash episode 13, The Nuclear Man. I definitely love this episode. It was great to finally get to see Firestorm in most of the episode. He didn't just come in and it wasn't just like a minor part of the side story where he was in it a little bit and mostly the rest of the episode was, the characters looking for Firestorm. In this one, Firestorm was the main focus. We got to see him a lot as crazy Firestorm just shooting off up in the air like a rocket. And we got to see him as, two people who were unfortunately combined after this really big accident, who were struggling to each have their own lives while being trapped inside this one body. And I really loved that. It was really cool. We got to see really one of the big things was the fact that, and this was kind of introduced in the last episode, they really did go the route of the comic book where it is really two separate people put into one body. And it's a little different than the comic book. I think mostly the fact that he's on fire, and we'll probably get more to that once he's a bit more in control, and I guess Ronnie and the Doctor can kind of switch mentally, I guess, and which we may or may not get to see. I don't really know, but it was definitely cool to get these two characters together and get to know the Doctor. We got a flashback of him meeting Barry. We got him constantly, running to his wife because he wants to be with her, but he's trapped inside of Ronnie's body. And it was just really fun to watch. And him being this genius scientist who, even made Dr. Wells jealous because he won this big award 3 separate times. It was really cool to watch this character kind of have this balancing act where he's a really intelligent person, but he's stuck in a situation that he really couldn't figure out even when he was himself. Like, he couldn't figure it out, and neither could the people that he worked with. And now he's trapped in this situation, and he knew really the biggest outcome, which was the nuclear explosion and him basically going nuclear and dying. He knew that could happen because it's the same issue that they had, in the past. So I actually enjoyed that. I thought it was pretty cool, and it led to a really big connection towards at the very end of the episode where the army gets involved, and I can't remember the general's name, but I know he's played by Clancy Brown, so Clancy Brown knows about Firestorm, and maybe that's where the Doctor was initially going. Like, he went to look at the particle accelerator, and maybe he was going to talk to Dr. Wells about it, like, hey, you have this, you've built some pretty cool things, you've done some amazing stuff, maybe we can work together on this. But if the army knew about it, maybe that just means he went to them before as well, just like Wells did, like with the Grodd stuff. Dr. Wells knew the general, like that when the general came into the series, they already had a history with each other, and it's because it's like he runs this specific portion of the military that does dive into a lot of science-based things where it's like, let's try out these crazy experiments to help our soldiers and to make superhumans and things like that to win wars. So it actually makes perfect sense that he knows who Firestorm is, or what, the Firestorm Project really is. So I actually enjoyed that, and it of course brings him back in as yet another sort of villain player, because he wasn't a good guy at all actually when he first came in. So it brings him back into the fold, and he's going to be another obstacle that the team at Star Labs is going to have to deal with now, because Ronnie as well as the Doctor are both going to survive this. And one of my favorite things is that the little nuclear piece that they gave him, which I have to assume they think it doesn't work, but it's going to work, and he'll be fine. At some point at least they'll be able to control the ability of Firestorm completely. That sort of mark that went across his chest is basically exactly how it looks in the comics, and I love that. I thought it was really cool, and I wasn't expecting that. Like, Caitlin put it on him, and then it kind of shot out and around his chest and stuff, and I was like, oh, that's really cool, because once he gets into full-on Firestorm mode and he has complete control and he can turn into fire and stuff, it'll look very reminiscent of the comic book version, which I just thought was a nice little nod. Like, a lot of people wouldn't know that. I wouldn't have known that if I hadn't seen, like, the couple of pictures and stuff I've ever actually seen of him. I've honestly seen more Firestorm from the DC Robot Chicken episode than I have of, like, any comic book based stuff, oddly enough. But I thought that was actually really cool. It was a nice way to just get a little closer to his initial costume from the comic book. So I love that. Like, the explosion at the end leading them to believe that it basically failed and the army's going to come in. I can't wait to see how that plays out. I have to assume it's going to be a while. It's going to be like a couple of episodes before we really get to see all that stuff take place. But it's going to be great. It's going to lead to something really big. And if they happen to control Firestorm, completely, then, who knows how that could work out for the army. They might all get killed off or something, or, hopefully with a little bit more control, Firestorm would just kind of take off and go to Star Labs rather than burn everyone to a crisp. But there's a lot of stuff that can come out of that. There are a lot of story elements, a lot of pairings for the characters. Dr. Wells meeting with the general again, and them really having about considering the fact that Ronnie's way more important than the random woman who used to be a soldier that they didn't even know in that other episode, and they tried their best to save her. And oddly enough, thinking about it, it kind of ended the same way where, in that episode, Barry had to run her out into like the ocean because she went nuclear. And in this episode, the army wasn't involved until the very end. But it was the same kind of thing. Like, it all kind of fell apart with a nuclear explosion. And the army kind of came in and, did their thing. So, it's like an odd parallel, even though there was really no connection. It was just nuclear explosions. And nope, there's the army again. But I definitely love that. I'm excited to see all the craziness that plays out. And with the stuff that we got to see of Gorilla Grodd, maybe that can be included in it as well. Like, maybe Grodd will surface and it'll all happen with the Firestorm stuff, and it'll just make the clash, even more epic, whenever they decide to get to it, which I have to assume is going to be in this season. I hope it is, at least. But that was definitely great. I love getting to see the different aspects of Firestorm and getting to see and learn about the character that we didn't know. Like, we didn't really know who this character was. It was like, it's Ronnie, and then it's someone else, but we don't know this character. So we got to learn him. We got to learn a little bit about his life, with him being a scientist and getting these great awards and having this wife and this and that and just normal life stuff for him. So that was definitely cool, getting the other side of things. And then we have like the other half of the episode, which I really loved. They of course teased us with it at the end. They didn't give us the answer to who the Reverse Flash was, but they did decide to go the definite route of the comic books, which told us that Barry is the one who was in the past. Like, in that big battle with the red and the yellow, Barry was one of those people, and it was the Flash versus the Reverse Flash. And of course they teased us, and like I said, they didn't give us the blood sample, which kind of brings up a couple other questions. It could be the fact that this person technically didn't exist, so there would be no blood on record. So it could either be whoever is from the future, if it is Eddie, way in the future and evil, or if it is Dr. Wells and he just may or may not have been, basically taken to jail or anything, because it's just like with fingerprints. Technically, if you've never been to prison and you committed a crime, they can't just run your fingerprints and it's like it's that person. You have to have committed a crime beforehand, and then they fingerprint you, and that's how that happens. So it's kind of the same thing with blood, unless something really big happened, like if there was a giant medical emergency, maybe that would be on file, or something serious like that. But otherwise, there would be no answers. Like, there would be no blood samples. So it could still be Dr. Wells, because we don't really know when he came into the past. But I would assume it is the other Reverse Flash, especially considering all the stuff that Dr. Wells is trying to do to get Barry to become, the Flash that exists in the future, I guess. So I don't think it was Dr. Wells. I'm pretty sure it was the other Reverse Flash. And I loved what they did in this episode. It was really cool to see Joe and Cisco working together. The woman that answered the door, she was really funny, and that was just a silly scene in the beginning. Like, she opens the door, and both of them are just looking straight down at her chest, and then they both look up. And that was just really silly. And then she changes into, like, the dress and all this extra stuff. It was just really funny. So I enjoyed that, because it was just random comedy that I thought worked really well. And the science behind what they did, like the 3D imaging from the mirror, like basically them running around so much basically turned the back of the mirror into photographs. I thought that was really cool. And then they had the blood splatter, and that's how they led them to realizing that it was actually Barry from the future. So I love that. It was definitely cool. I'm incredibly excited for the next episode. I don't know how much time travel stuff we're going to get into, but they do tell Barry that it's him, and that's the thing I'm most excited for. They tell Barry you were here, like you were in this moment, and it's you from the future here. So I'm excited to see just all the crazy time travel stuff that they talk about in the next episode. And that's just a huge part of Flash, like him traveling through time. Really, anyone from like just the Flash family, them traveling through time is like a really big thing. So, or alternate dimensions, even all that stuff is really big for Flash. So I'm incredibly excited for next week's episode because of that. And it's unfortunate. I really don't think we're gonna get really any other answers from it, but I'm definitely excited for them to just get into all the crazy experimental, science and stuff with time travel. Because, like I said, that's a big part of Flash. So I can't wait to see them get into that. And then we also had like the relationship stuff in this episode. I actually enjoyed. I thought it was pretty cool. Barry meeting this new woman, them going out. Another really funny thing, Cisco and Caitlin talking about Barry basically not being able to last because his body gets basically it does things faster than the normal human body. I thought that was really funny. It was a nice little adult reference, I guess, but I enjoyed that. Iris seemed like she was just jealous through like the whole episode, every little thing, and it's what you would expect when you have these characters who, I mean, I think it's like that in every series where one character is just crazy about someone and that person isn't crazy about them, and then once that changes, it's like, I didn't know for so long, and then you drop like this giant bomb, and then you instantly flip the script. It messes with your mind. Like it doesn't matter who you are. I think that's gonna mess with you. It's like I had no idea. I was just like in friend zone with you. We're happy and stuff, and then you drop like the love bomb, and then like just flip the script on me, and you don't you say like you don't feel that way. So I understand how it could affect Iris and how she'd be feeling different, like she not really knowing how to feel, because it makes you think about all this time that you spent with this person, and you've ignored every single thing that they've like held on to. So it makes perfect sense that it would happen. It's very common, like in any series where that happens. We kind of know what to expect, but I actually enjoyed it in this one. I like the actress who plays the sports reporter. Of course, I can't think of her name. I suck at that. But I like her as an actress. I like her character and how she has these different elements that Barry isn't exactly used to, like the spicy stuff. Just it's like a random simple thing, but it's just something he's not used to, and him having this balancing act between being the Flash and being Barry Allen, possibly future boyfriend and stuff like that. So I enjoyed that. I thought it was actually pretty well done. I'm excited to see how far it goes. I don't expect her to be in the series so long that she ends up finding out a secret, and if she does, then she's of course gonna die, because that's just how TV goes. But I enjoyed her character. I think everything about this episode was definitely great. The Joe and Cisco thing definitely had me the most excited for what it might introduce, and then after that, of course, was all the Firestorm stuff, and especially with that ending, it just leaves so many questions, like how long is it going to take for them to realize that he actually survived? When they find out he survived, is it going to be because the army has like mind control on him now, and all these other speculations about the evil general and all that extra stuff. But I love the episode. Of course, I want to know what you guys thought, so please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, your least favorite parts, and what do you guys think about Firestorm? I mean, he's very similar to the comics. He is two people trapped in one body. One person at this point controls the mind. So like I said, I don't know if they're ever going to be able to kind of switch back and forth, because like Dr. Wells said, the doctor's mind is stronger than Ronnie's, but Ronnie's body is of course stronger than an older man's body. So the two best components combined together, and so Ronnie's kind of just in the background a little bit, and I guess that's how it is in the comic books. But I enjoyed it, but I want to know what you guys thought, because this was finally the first episode where he wasn't just shooting fire, even though in the beginning, which really surprised me, he went to that guy for help and then instantly lost control, and he just roasted the guy. I was like, well, he can't help, you just barbecued him. So I thought that was kind of interesting in the beginning. It seemed like he was really calm, he was able to talk to him, and then he lost it and that guy just died, and that was it. But I definitely enjoyed it. But like I said, I want to know what you guys thought, so please Comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.